Welcome to the SmartTechCheck podcast, hosted by Mark Vina, your home for candid, insightful, and provocative conversations about the smart home automation, security, smartphones, PC and console gaming, and much more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Vina, host of the SmartTechCheck podcast. Today is Saturday, September 9th, 2023. The CEDIA trade show underscores the pivotal role of smart homes in the modern world. As technology continues to shape our lives, the integration of smart devices and systems within homes has become paramount. CEDIA showcases the latest innovations, fostering a collaborative platform for industry experts to exchange ideas and advance home automation. It highlights how smart homes enhance convenience, security, and sustainability, shaping the future of residential living. To discuss the event's importance, I'm joined by Paul Williams, Chief Product Officer at NICE, from the show floor. Paul, good morning and welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. I'm doing fantastic. It's been a busy show. Thank you for having me on this podcast.
No, glad to have you on. This is, CEDIA is such an incredibly important show. It probably doesn't have the visibility that CES has, which is a big show, or IFA, which I was just at last week in Berlin. But it's such a pivotal show because the smart home is such an incredibly important category. And I'm so pleased to get you on, to get some of your spare time in a very busy show like this, kind of walk people through CEDIA and really, more importantly, how NICE is really changing the face of the smart home from a user standpoint. So let me bring a few slides of kind of the guide the conversation. So first of all, for those people who don't know you, and I'm sure there's a few people on the planet that don't know you, talk to me about NICE and your role at NICE.
So I'm the Chief Product Officer here at NICE North America. And what I do is I head up all of the product vision, direction, roadmaps for where we're headed with the product direction for all of our product sets. So across the smart home, across the blinds and shades, across the garage door operators and gate operators, for a full host of solutions. We really have this cohesive home management solution, which is a NICE home management solution.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your background because, you've had a lot of smart home experience in your career. So let me talk for about a few seconds about your prior roles.
Okay. Yeah, so I've spent the last 20 years in and around the smart home. That's been my life. It's my passion. It's what drives me. Before joining NICE about a year and a half ago, I was at Savant. Previously, before that, GE Lighting was acquired by Savant. And then for 15 years prior to that with Control4. Was one of the first employees there, I think number 15 or 16, employee number 15 or 16. So very early days. And for the listeners that may not know, Control4 was one of the foundational kind of companies that really took, while smart home had been around for a long time, really took it into more mainstream, more capability, more of the openness that smart home is today. So.
Well, you're exactly the right guy for us to talk to about the smart home. So let's jump into a few topics here. So broadly, when you look at it from a smart home technology standpoint, let's kind of drill down a bit on how smart home technologies, and there's a lot of them, are enhancing the quality of life, comfort, and convenience. Now, there's a lot of other kind of stuff baked into there, but these are the kind of things that really kind of get homeowners and consumers excited. So let's talk a little bit about that for a few moments, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you bet. This harkens back to the why part of it. And I think one of the things that consumers have had a hard time understanding, and unfortunately, a lot of the marketing that was done by companies early on was all about the smart home. And it made it look like, hey, this is just a gimmicky thing that you're going to put in your house, and it's some gimmick. It's not going to return any real value to you. And it's only for techies. Only techies are going to be interested in this. It's the only thing that's going to make it run. But really, as you start to communicate the why parts of what is important about it, and the way that I look at the connected and smart home is this way. If we can give a busy family 15 more extra minutes in their day by taking some of these mundane tasks away, by taking some of the things that are either complicated or take time, if we can reduce that and give them 15 more extra minutes a day, I can't think of any family anywhere in the world that wouldn't want 15 more minutes of just time with each other to spend there. If we can make a family feel more safe and secure in their own home, and honestly, should you feel more safe and secure in your home? I believe everyone would say a resounding yes. if we can make you feel more safe and secure through that technology, and if we can really do some things to reduce your carbon footprint and your energy consumption, we can also make it economical at the same time too. And those are three big selling points that often get overlooked in the smart home. But those are the things that really drive it home for me. And what I do, and as I drive our teams to what we're looking for, is how can we improve our customers' lives? And whether that improvement is, I want to make sure that lights are on in the rooms that I want them on, whether I want to make it comfortable for my family and myself, or the big ones, like I mentioned, whether I want to make sure it's safe and secure. So if there are any threats that are in and around the home, that I'm getting notified, that I'm getting enough notice, that anybody else may be getting noticed, police, other forces that are out there to be able to help me, to be able to keep my family, my possessions, my home safe. Those are all things that we work on a daily basis. And that's really the essence of smart home. Once again, I think too early on, this industry, well, not this industry, but I would say marketing was focused on the gimmicky parts of it. Yeah, that's great. From an app, I can control my home, and consumers go, well, that's great. I've lived in my home for 20 years and it works fine today. I don't need an app for me to be able to live fine in my home tomorrow. But when you start to expose the things like never coming home to a dark home again, making sure that you have easy ways to say, you know what, I don't want to go walk around my home and take the Better Homes and Gardens tour of my home every night, turn all the lights off and the TVs that got left on. If I can hit a single button or have a single tap on a touchscreen or even say a single command to have all that stuff happen without having to take that walk around the home, that's just, it's convenience. It just simplifies consumers' life.
Well, and truth be told, if you flash back about 10 or 15 years, the smart home is a relatively new moniker for the category. It was home automation. If you flash back to the early 2000s, late 90s, it was, it had a lot of George Jetson promise to it and a lot of flash, but it wasn't particularly easy to do,
No.
And now with, smart home assistants like Alexa or Google Assistant, and the fact that most homes today have 10, 15, 20, 25 devices in their home that are connected in some way. Now it's becoming a lot easier. Now the integration part, of course, and I want to talk a little bit about, we'll talk a little bit about during the podcast in terms of nice value add. There still is an integration aspect. Sometimes it's a bit challenging. And that's one of NICE's, I think, real compelling value proposition attributes, because you do have a strong relationship with builders, you have a strong relationship with dealers, which are really the backbone of delivering those capabilities. So let's talk about that aspect in terms of giving people. I love the vision of a smart home. I love being security devices, but how do I get all those devices to work together? And how does NICE, act as the conductor, let's say, of bringing that experience together?
Hey, Ben, it's a great question. And we're here at the CEDIA show. And the CEDIA show is an integrator show. And many of your listeners may or may not have heard of technical integrators or the custom integration channel, which is really what CEDIA is about. And this is a group of companies that are all around the United States, in fact, worldwide, that are there to be the technology champions, the technology experts for our consumers that are trying to bring technology in their home. But honestly, even with a lot of the DIY stuff out there today, honestly, it's not that simple to use. It still requires somebody to want to dig in and spend the time and effort to be able to put these things in. What our solution allows for is a professional installation using these custom integrators that are around the globe that can come in, they can consult with the consumer, and they can really personalize that experience for the consumer. If they are more concerned about safety and security, about intelligent lighting, or power management, whatever they're concerned about, the integrator can work with them to deliver that experience. And that experience gets delivered through our platform. And one of the things we're talking about smart home, you'll see behind me, we're actually starting to call that NICE, or we're calling it home management, because I think that more embodies that smart home has these connotations go along with it. But this integrator can come into the home, talk to the consumer, and really personalize something that they don't get more than they want. They don't get things they're not looking for, but they get exactly what they want. And what they can do is bring in not only our own products on our platform, where they bring in many of it, even some of those DIY products that they would have purchased, bring those in and make them work cohesively. And what you get with that experience, and this is one of the other frustration parts that has happened with the DIY, is you can open up a phone and you've got 16 different apps to control your home. Well, I'm gonna say that is not simple. that most consumers would not rate that as simple. The worst part about that is usually those apps can't talk to each other. So I can't have the experience where me walking into the room, I can turn on the lights and I can also turn on music in the room just by me being in the room. By walking out of the room, those things then turn off behind me. That's so hard to do on these DIY solutions that are out there today. And that's what an integrator would do in working with our consumers to deliver that experience. And that is really what the CEDIA show that we're here is all about.
Well, you nailed it right there in that I don't think people get, they love everybody loves to do a DIY project, and you saw a lot of that during the pandemic because people were home and they figured, hey, let me see if I can go make my home smart. And a couple of things about that is that retailers, the highest return product category within major retailers, and I won't say who the name is, but I think people can guess who it is the smart home category. And typically 95% of that stuff that comes back to a retailer, it's working perfectly. It's just that they couldn't get it to work. And, the thing that's interesting to me about what NICE does in its relationship with its integrators is that, typically an integrator that you bring into your home to help integrate and install all this wonderful stuff is that you're going to have a lifelong relationship with that customer, that integrator. They know who you are. They know the pain points. They know the operative word here is customization, frankly, because a lot of the technology that's out there, it takes you hours and hours to customize it. How you went, for example, your lighting to work in your homes. Not everybody is the same. It's not just on and off. I mean, you might want to set different moods. There's different scenes. And having an integrator do that can save you so much time. And if there's a problem, obviously you have one throat to choke. So I think NICE does a wonderful job because of that really legacy relationship you have, and hopefully one day we'll get to the promised land. Maybe at some point this Matters Smart Home Initiative will make a lot of that stuff superfluous. But the reality is that it's still a bit of an integration challenge for most consumers. Would you agree with that?
It is. And that is one of the things that actually deterred a lot of consumers from thinking about these categories is because they may have purchased a DIY product, got it home, and then found out it wasn't as simple to do as they thought. And unfortunately, the displays in the stores that you go into and electronic stores, they show this experience. And then when you get home, you actually can't achieve that because it's either too hard or it doesn't do exactly what they promised it could do. And what you get with a professionally installed solution is you're going to get what you want, and it's never going to exceed the capabilities of what it can do. That installer and integrator is going to work with that consumer to really make sure that it's really catered around that person. But they take all the complexity because the reality of it is that all of these devices and communicating with all of these devices around the home, it's actually really complex. Manufacturers, there's some things out there that people may have heard of, like Matter is a term that gets thrown out a lot. Those are meant to help that, but it's still going to be complex at the end of the day to get these things all to talk together. And I agree. Someday, I hope we get to the promised land. I've been waiting for the promised land for 20 years. I haven't seen it yet. And that's okay. We can give you the promised land, but in this way. What that integrator will do is really make sure those things all work together and you don't have to go through that hassle. But back to your point, that has been one of the deterrents. People get this stuff, they take it home, and it just doesn't do what they thought it would do or what the promise of the product was in the first place.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, before we go to the next topic, because I want to squeeze a lot of this information in, is that security is becoming a big deal. Well, security, obviously, from a camera standpoint, from motion sensors, all that wonderful stuff. But I'm talking about security in that, when you have 25 or 30 connected devices in your home, that creates a wonderful opportunity for the bad guys to be able to get into your home. And having a professional installer that makes sure that you're using software that helps you protect the protocols and the ability to hack a network to get into your home, that's incredibly important. And I know that really good integrators will help out with that as well. Let's hit the next topic here. So let's talk about a few of the good examples of best practices, and we've been talking around them and at it for a few moments. But from your perspective, specifically from a builder's perspective, because it's so important, let's talk about some of those good examples that you'd like to kind of point out to the audience.
Yeah, so we have a great builders program. We work with builders all around the country to be able to put together programs for their consumers. And that scales all kinds of homes, all the way from tract homes are being built to the uber luxury homes that are being built. We have programs that span across that. And the best practice is we sit down with the builders. We try to understand, what is their demographics of the people that they're going to be attracting to them. What do they look like? Who are they? What are the types of, are they families? Are they single? Are they in this age category? And from there, we know based on our experience and based on what we've seen, the kinds of things that are going to appeal to those people. What the builders is looking to do is to make sure that the homes they build are attractive to a purchaser. And so what they want to do is make sure that that's attractive. We work with them to make sure that the solutions that they're putting in that come from us are the kinds of things that are going to attract them. Now, we don't want to oversell it because you don't want to get into this house and it's like, well, that's not what I want at all, too. So we pay very close attention to where that demographic is that they're trying to focus in, and we do that. And that usually starts with, as you were aptly mentioning in when we were talking previously, is security. Security is a big part of what builders are putting into homes because consumers are expecting that.
Yes.
Consumers are expecting that is there as a basal need of buying a home, that it has that kind of capability built into it. A lot of builders have opted for that. So that's one of the things that's where we typically start. And then we start to move into, as we go up a little bit higher and get into the luxury and uber luxury, and even at the higher end of the mid-market, intelligent lighting control, distributed audio. I want to hear audio in all rooms of the house. I want to make this an immersive experience for my consumers. As you get into the uber luxury media rooms and home theaters and outdoor entertainment spaces and outdoor speakers, all of the things that we can do. And that's one of the things that make us unique. We have such a breadth and depth of products. We really can scale from a very simple, economical solution all the way up to these massive uber luxury solutions. And so as we sit down with the builder, we go through that, we understand their building designs, and then we help put it into terms that will communicate to a consumer. And that's usually around packages. We put these packages together because a consumer doesn't know, I need to have a thermostat in this room, and I need to have speakers in this room, and they need to have this over here and this over here. We put together packages. This is an entertainment package. This is a home security package. This is a home comfort package. This is a blinds and shades package. So we put those kinds of things together. And then as that builder is talking to their consumer prospective purchaser of that home, much the same way they would do to choose tile or countertops or flooring, they can talk to them in an intelligent way about, here's the technologies you can also put into your home. So we start with this, and they usually start with, you have a security system that's put in. That's what you start with. But you can also scale and add in distributed audio. So you can have audio everywhere. You can have outdoor living. These are the types of things. They'll build these packages that we work with them to put into place. So then what you get from that is really this story that allows you to then have this communication with the consumer. It makes it make sense to them, but they also then understand what they're getting at the same time too. So once again, not getting more than they need, but getting what they need. And those are the best practices. We found it works. It's a really tried and true formula that we have as we sit down with builders and work with them.
Well, and let's make sure we state this, is that NICE has a very expansive line of solutions. I mean, we're not talking about, people who are only building $5 or $10 million homes should be talking about an engagement with NICE. I mean, you guys play very well in affordable homes because, again, they're from some people may not need all the bells and whistles that someone with a larger home on a larger estate, for example, have. And you really do, have a wide, I almost would say a big, they use Batman as a reference, a big, wide utility belt of solutions that really scale multiple price points from a home standpoint. So that gives the builders a lot of things to work with, correct?
It does. And not only that, but we also manufacture garage door operators and gate operators. And every home in North America, I don't know a home today is built without a garage and without a garage door. So every home needs a garage door. We start there also with builders. You're going to have to put a garage door on that. Let's make it one of our intelligent garage doors. So you can start with that. And that allows the consumer, even if they don't do anything more, if that's where the builder decided they were going to stop, now that the homeowner has a solution they can start to build from, so that after they move into the home, they can go and say, I do want to have distributed audio. Well, great. We already have a garage door operator that is part of this home management solution that you can build and put as part of that. So it's completely scalable. As you mentioned, great entry level price points, and you can scale up from there.
Well, and the last thing, and this is probably an obvious question, an obvious observation before I get to the next topic, is that give us a sense, because you've been at the show for the last couple of days, the sense of enthusiasm that builders have about the smart home. Because the reality is that the builders are surprisingly sophisticated. They're not just great at building homes. Over the last 10 or 15 years, they've really acquired a very strong technical acumen. They don't want to deal with lots and lots of different players, which, given NICE's reputations, again, kind of one throat to choke. But give us a sense of their enthusiasm about the smart home category, just in general.
Yeah, so it's really high. It started out with early adopters. They had builders that were out there kind of at the forefront of this because they saw this was coming. Today, it's a necessity. The home buyer of today expects that as they purchase home, there's some technology in that. That even changes as we talk about demographics as well. The millennials that are into the home purchasing process today, well into the home purchasing process today, it is an absolute expectation that there is technology in the home. And so not offering a product today as a builder of your homes that doesn't have technology as part of it is a non-starter.
Yeah,
So that's the ones that were in the early development and kind of the early adopter phase have had to come along into the process here. And that's also where we help them out. A lot of builders there's some builders are still scared about what they're doing here and how it works. And they're worried. What they're also worried about is, the typical builder model is, I sell you a home and I want to hear from you 10 years from now when you want a new home. But in between that, I'm happy not hearing from you. That's just the way that model works. And they worry that if I put this in, and if you can't figure it out, if it's hard, that I'm going to get all these calls. And we take that worry out because once again, soothful, intuitive solutions that we offer. So we put them ease about that. We put them at ease about how that process is going to work for the technology integration within the home, so that they know that it's something that's not going to cause them headaches and cause them worry later. And so we're seeing a ton of enthusiasm. I would say there's a builder out there today that's not looking at and putting technology in their home because it's become a necessity for them.
Right. And I'm going to date myself when I say this. I remember when you were building a home 20 years ago, it was considered sophisticated if you just had RJ45 Ethernet cable for an empty room. The world has moved significantly,
drastically in the last 2 decades. Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, and I'm sure you would agree with this, is when someone's buying a home, especially a home that's been built over the last couple of years, they expect, most homeowners or prospective homeowner buyers are expecting smart home technology to be integrated in the home. So it's a great resale attribute as well. Let's talk a little bit about just the impact of smart technology. I mean, and we're not just talking about convenience. So I can stream video all over the place, and I can have gaming with my kids in one room, and I can be watching a great movie in the other room, and I have control cameras, monitoring the perimeter of my home. There's an energy efficiency aspect that's incredibly important. I live in good old California, and believe me, people who have smart homes and are monitoring their use of energy have a huge advantage over people who are not doing that. There's obviously a security aspect of it. There's a sustainability aspect of it. So let's talk about that from those different dimensions.
Yeah, I think I'll frame it in this way. And Mark, you're a good example of this since you're in California. So we've got kind of a perfect storm brewing here. So in the state of California, they're putting regulation in place that after 2035, they're not going to sell another fuel-powered vehicle, all-electric vehicle after that. The existing grid cannot even barely support the EVs that are in the market today. If you start to force that even higher, it's going to get worse. And honestly, the grid's not getting dramatically better between now and 2035. The perfect storm creates an opportunity. And that opportunity is, I believe, and many others believe, the only way we're going to solve this is by using the power we have more efficiently and more effectively. And that is where we start to take home management and smart home technology and start to think about how are we using power. Let's make sure that we're not utilizing it incorrectly. Let's make sure we're not wasting power, and make sure we're as efficiently using it as possible. But also to do things like, that EV charging I just mentioned. Let's make sure that the EV charging is done during it, especially when you're on demand billing or in other areas in the country or on demand rate billing. Let's make sure that I only charge the vehicle when it's the lowest possible rate and only during that lowest possible rate. And if it moves to another rate while in the middle of a charge, it stops because I don't want to charge until I get to that minimum rate again. So there's things that we can do without the homeowner having to walk around and go, okay, how much energy is being used in the house, be able to do things like temperature offsets, be able to make sure the lights are off in the home, make sure that audio video is off in rooms that people aren't listening or aren't in and not listening to, and are at the same time too. And by measuring those, we can also see that, as appliances age, the motors in them continue to pull more power, and that actually becomes a problem. And you have an inefficient appliance in your home that you're unaware of because you just don't know. You know your bill's high. You don't know why your bill's high, but you don't know what's causing that. And smart energy, talking to smart appliances and consolidating that together. In fact, we just released a new feature here at the show where we could bring smart appliances into our home management solution and monitor the power to see what's going on with these devices. And you could see over this dishwasher is suddenly starting to use more power. That might indicate that it's got some issue. I could then bring in somebody, maybe it just is a simple correction that needs to make to it from a service personnel to get it back to a place where it's not consuming as much electricity. And this is economical, but it's also, I believe, going to be a necessity as we continue to move further and further down, trying to get to energy independence from solar and wind and the other renewable energy sources that we have. That we're going to continue to face into this because it's not going to get dramatically better between now and when people are starting to make these conversions happen. So.
Well, and Paul, just a quick plug on the whole smart appliances thing. I just recently replaced my entire kitchen back in October. And I was a little bit, the smart home advantages of having smart appliances are cool. But I was more interested in, hey, can it save me a few bucks? And my appliances, I replace everything. The oven, the kitchen, the dishwasher, the washer and dryer, everything. If you can believe this, my energy utilization is down 22% year over year. And of course, I can't impact the price of a kilowatt. That's kind of set by the utility companies out here. But without any, I'm not using my appliances any less. The utilization pattern has stayed the same, but it's been dramatic. And so if people who are listening to this podcast, if they have appliances that are 10, 15 years old, it's a big. I mean, you will save a ton of money if you upgrade your appliances, and it's wonderful to hear that you're integrating that the smart appliance category into your portfolio capabilities. That's interesting. As we kind of come here to the end of the podcast, any last messages you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, I think that if there are people who have not tried smart home, or if they tried it and it was too hard, too complex, too complicated, or they went, you know what, I'm not going to get value out of it. This is one of those George Jetson things that I'm never going to use. It's never going to be beautiful. If they come take a look at what's out there, and I think there's lots of other companies as well, but I would say I put a plug for us at niceforyou.com. It's a great place to learn about what the art of the possible is. I would encourage them to take a look at it again. I think you could find that it's a way for you to enhance your life, to simplify your life, to make sure you're safe and secure, and everybody wants that today. And also to make sure that you're energy efficient and you're using the energy in the right way, but also to save money at the end of the day. I think there's reasons for you to be thinking about these categories. And rather than go it alone, because I think you could certainly dig into the DIY category and try to make it work and cobble it together. And maybe you can find some developer in Azerbaijan that's created some code that you could pull down and put on the software to make it work. But if that just confused you what I was talking about, then the DIY is probably not for you. And it's honestly not for me at the same time too. I'll put myself in that same category. Talk to one of the integrators out there. Talk to somebody who's part of the CEDIA organization, the show that we're at today. They can really work with you and start to make something that's economical. It's what you want. It doesn't give you bells and whistles you're not concerned about and aren't going to enhance your life. Really give it a try and at least do the research, because I believe there's benefit in it for honestly anybody listening to this podcast. I guarantee there's some use case that we could fill that would really enhance your life and make it worth the value.
Well, again, Paul, thanks again for taking the time to join me for today's podcast. That was a terrific session. For our viewing and listening audience, thanks for making the Smart Tech Check podcast part of your day or commute. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast, or use these on-screen QR codes to connect with me and follow up with some information on the products offered by NICE. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @MarkVina. And until next time, great week, and Paul, enjoy the rest of your stuff at CEDIA.